It did. Thokozani Gogo, welcome. As you can see, it's quite a production that we've got going on here. We literally have 4 phones because both Amakosi Himi and I live both on Instagram and on YouTube. So those who are following me on Insta and are not following Makosi, you know what to do, and vice versa. Yeah. Have you added me into the live? Let me do this. Dun, dun. There we go.
So can everybody hear us?
What I can do is, let us figure this out. Thokozani Gogo. Welcome. And it's quite interesting, this echo win today, as we're trying to figure it out, how to sort it out. We will be speaking about sound, and there's this reverberation.
I can change this. Huh? But then they won't be, someone won't be able to hear me.
Yeah. Oh!
So I think you have to go live on your page.
No. What needs to happen is I can do this. I don't need to hear. There we go. Problem solved.
All right.
Okay, Thokozani Gogo. So I have muted my volume. So I just want to check into everybody who's logging in whether you can still hear me clearly. Please just send through a thumbs up if the sound is coming through correctly, if you can hear my voice. Welcome to everybody joining us on the live this evening and this afternoon for those in the States or Northern Hemisphere. I see quite a few people coming in with suggestions. Maybe turn off one of your microphones. Towards a Coco, thank you. Just one and the other will pick it up. Towards a thank you. Empress Mystic, Towards a Coco, Thokozani. I am him, thumbs up. Vuyo, thumbs up. Butle, thumbs up on the sound. So we are good to go. What we are going to do is we're going to also then pin the topic for today's discussion. For those who saw the promo reel, we're going to be discussing, the native tongue and the native mind and its relationship with ingoma, which is song and sound, which we as sangomas initiate into. So there's quite a bit of layers we're going to be exploring, but all under the container around the importance of recognizing the native tongue and the native mind and the relationship it plays in bringing us back to the essence of who we are through song, back to Bungoma. Thokozani Gogo. I can't pin the comment. You have to pin it from my comment from that side. So as you can see today, I am here in Koko Kayabuti, Mshengu Shabalada Fonganama Vuselo Panago. I'm with Introduce yourself.
Tokozani, greetings everyone. I'm Makosi Himi, also Makosi Star Mother, a part of the Makosi Foundation here at the temple in Fallbrook, Southern California.
Thokozani. And we also have with us Mokoko Bemadloti, Bantwana Bemadloti. I'm just going to I'm just showing you a glance so that you also hear and you're not surprised when you suddenly hear sounds of angels coming through. These are our angels today, Bokoko. All of you are so shy. Thokozani Bokoko. Thokozani Bokoko. So I think, oh, okay, somebody sent a comment through saying that there's an echo because you are in the same space. Oh, I can hear the echo a bit.
But there's also a natural echo
Yes.
in the room.
Oh, we are in a space also that has a natural echo. Thokoza Koko, yes, at Candy SD. So without any further delay or anything, we're going to come in because we're speaking about, the native tongue, the native mind, all of it which carries a voice, carries a sound that speaks to us within us. And as Abangoma, you will all know ukuthi umngoma uvuswa ingoma. Song is central to our initiation process, is central to our rites. So it is then a must that we begin with song to just set the intention, set the mood, and also to allow for our ancestors who will be guiding us through this conversation. Because we are records, we are libraries as Bangoma. So we call upon our own experiences, which accesses us to the experiences of those who came before us, who then come with all the wisdom, all of the knowledge, stretching all the way back to antiquity, so we can start to remember who we are. Thokozani Bokoko. Koko Lobola is going to sing a beautiful song for us. The song she's going to sing for us is Siyahamba Endleleni Zakudala. And we'll all sing together. And when I say she'll sing for us, she'll be singing the lead. Because Ingoma is structured around a call and response, where everybody participates. It's part of a teaching of a communal system, where one calls and we all respond in unison. It's a teaching, basically, the call and response structure of being able to listen to people within their experience. Because if one calls and all of us respond, it means just within our social structures, the cries or the issues or the calls of people must then also be heard by all around. It speaks to, how we are taught to be inclusive, because we come from a cosmology of Ubuntu. Umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. I am because you are. The essence of my humanity begins in recognizing your own. Thokozani Bokoko. or talk a lot. So I'm not going to talk a lot right now. But it's so beautiful, you know. This song, it speaks about siyahamba, siyendeleni zakudala, or etindleleni takudala. We are going back to our origins, we are going back to our roots, the essence of who we are. You know, we have been called Tzalabasbita. And that's ultimately what all of us are being called in this time, in this moment, in this time of grand awakening in the world that we're in, is that each and every one of us are starting to recognize that the way we were taught to think, to speak, to relate, to do, is inherently not kind to all of us, which we see, you know, in social ills, you know, the breakdown of the family structure, of relationships, of marriage, you know, the breakdown of healthcare systems, you know, all of these health problems that we have, structural inequity, all of these systematic and institutional issues that we have as people. And we keep on looking for responses to be able to sort of meet that. But there's a belief that says the very same thinking which caused the problems cannot be this thinking that brings the solutions. And that's essentially what this live is around firstly recognizing and naming that we live in a Western, you know, modern time of modernity, which is driven by capitalism, imperialism, and it's a me, individuated society, a society that is driven by, you know, Newtonian empirical sort of thought, which is about a binary, right or wrong, proving, disproving. So all of these things really inform how we speak in our languages currently, and also inform how we think in our minds, where we speak of a modern mind, you know, thinking, a modern thinking, which is even things that some people study. We even speak about, you know, modern languages which have evolved to be able to express some of the living conditions we're in. But yet what all of this modern language and all of this modern thinking is not able to do is to either give expression to what it is that all of us globally are going on, if it's a language thing, and in terms of a thinking and a problem solving, is give us solutions as to how can we start to balance all of this inequity that we experience in this global world of ours. And that song, Siyahamba Siyendleleni Yakudzala, is basically one of the things that this live is inviting into everyone, is to start to explore the power of indigenous thought, the native mind, the native language, and how it is that it can weave us back to the essence of who we are. And today we'll be exploring how song, as you've just experienced, is a call to come together and a remembrance of, you know, collective or communal living system. I don't know, because, you know, you and I met online, and it feels like it's been a lifetime, but it's been about 3.5 years, if not going for 4. And one of the things that we share is a love of song, maybe, and the love of the indigenous, and where maybe I've grown up, you know, in a Western sort of a system, you actually live in the West. And I'm always been curious as to how has song been part of what has called you back to the native tongue, to the native mind?
I mean, for me, it kind of has two spaces in my experience and my movement through life. You know, for me, it started with my father. He was someone that mirrored the love of music and would travel the world and collect songs from all over the world. And that drew me in. And but you know, growing up in a Catholic upbringing and in the suburbs and here in America, it's like, you know, for me there was a disconnect through sound when I tried to become more religious. It was like, that's, you know, you can't move your hips like that anymore. And starting off with, stepping into, you know, recognizing the calling and answering the calling, it was the one ingredient that really opened up the way for me to really feel and know my ancestors for myself. You know, for me, the process was difficult for a long time, but it wasn't until I heard a particular song that things began to open.
That's quite interesting. The other day, you recall when we were speaking around when this whole conception came, and I was sharing that so many of us, just our relationship with music is songs like that, is that you can hear a song which you don't know the lyric, you don't know the translation, but there's something that is encoded that our sort of, if we sonic receptors are able to translate a language which is not accessible to us. You know, I was saying to you around Jennifer Lopez's Spanish album that came out, and it was a heartbreak album, and at the time I was going through heartbreak. I just heard the one song, I didn't even know about the album, and I fell in love. I listened to that album, and when I found that the lyric speaks of what I'm going through, it's one of the fondest memories that I always go back to around the power of song and how it communicates to us. Because when we speak of the native mind and the native tongue, what our native beings understand is song. Because in all of our indigenous, practices globally, it's always around song bringing us together, song, chants, calls, hymns, ceremonials, all of these words associated with the indigenous way of being. We understood that sound has an ability to sort of call us back to who we are. And that's what, for me, also interestingly enough, in my own awakening, even though I didn't have dreams, I didn't go to a healer that told me. I went through many experiences that may seem out of the ordinary. But one thing that was communal that helped for me to recognize is that I would start to sing these songs that there's no way I could know. And I had a friend of mine whose cousin had initiated. And when I recall the one time we had gone out drinking, and we were so sloshed, so we decided we're gonna walk all the way home. So on the walk, we sang Lozi songs all the way. And it wasn't until we got back to his place that he asked me, where do you know all of these songs from? And that was the first time I had to sit with that and be like, but I don't. And when he said these are Lozi songs, all of the things that were going on in my mind, because I was feeling that I needed to initiate, I was feeling that I was called. But up until that song called me, it wasn't something that I truly believed, because it was a significant marker to me that connected me to that this is actually what is calling you. And even now, currently, I can get in my feels and feel whatever I feel about my calling and the ancestors. But then a song will come and it will remind me that this is what I'm called to do. It's almost as though one of the gifts of Twasa for me has been how song can announce purpose.
Yes, and thus be a divination.
That divination part at the end, that divination part, it slapped very hard. I'm going to read comments, Mokoko. Also, all of those who know me and how I do my lives, you know that I like participatory style. So we're having a conversation, we're speaking about song, we're speaking about an indigenous way of living, of being, exploring the native tongue, exploring the native mind, and the power of song, or the relationship with song from a Sangoma's perspective. But there are gifts for all of us. This conversation is not only exclusive for those who have the calling or have initiated, but to anyone who feels called to understand more around Isintu, our indigenous ways of being and the ancestral wisdom that comes from that, and how it informs the way we can maybe call upon a way to support ourselves in this time. Thokozani bogogo. So I see Red July West says, lol, Thokozani, but I just had a mini flashback of your upbringing as a child shown by Ugogo. Maybe you could DM me if it's about me, or even if it's about you, please DM. We're not here for live divinations. Mahle Amamia says it's always that particular song that you hear that unlocks everything. Towards I really, really love that. And also what I will add and what I will invite is that if there's anyone who wants to jump in and maybe share, their relationship with song, that's great. Let's hang out, because we're here in exploration, speaking around what song has mean. We're just setting, the container. How long this live will go on as long as there is juice. And the juice is all of us co-creating, participating, and sharing our relationship with song, and how it's called us back to our spiritual traditions and our spiritual awakening. So because I have been called into Kuba Mungoma, it doesn't exclude somebody else whose song has led them to maybe explore Buddhism, explore even tarot, explore any sort of indigenous practice, and how that song then helps to support you in that indigenous practice that you have. Even religion within itself, because even Christianity, even Hinduism, even Islam, all of them are indigenous practices. So when we are having spiritual conversations and we are speaking from maybe a Bungoma perspective, it is not to exclude anybody else, but it's to cultivate spaces that are inclusive, where we can all drink from each other's wells of wisdom, because that's part of what the Makosi Foundation is really about, is about the indigenous preservation, not just of melanated people that come from Africa, but understanding that the indigenous ways of being, of looking at life, offer so many solutions for so many of our contemporary living issues. Yeah, I think I've caught up with all of the comments. Mama Toto, would you like to gift us with another song? Njengoba ningafuni ukukhuluma ngesihlabeleli thine, we're going to sing, while everybody also just maybe wants to get into emerging with what their contribution to this exploration is. Kapow, pow, pow. Ah, my word. I just want to maybe come back into the conversation and bring it back to us as Bangoma. I'm currently in California, and I'm the only South African here that is native tongue speaking. Yet we are seated here in this sacred circle, and there's 10 of us, all of us who have been called to Twasa Bungoma. And often, being a South African, to a lot of people, when I was sharing around the fact that I was coming to the States to do this work and everything, that I have a Twasa also, the first question they asked was, "Mai bayopeng lanjani?" Is how will they divine when they're in trance? Because the conversations and everything, is in Nguni, as we know Bungoma. And it was something that in the beginning I had to sit with. And that's what really ultimately has birthed this conversation, is sitting with the question as to, because I do not speak this language, does it mean that I cannot access or I cannot be called by that path? Going back, into South Africa, speaking around it also, what we often experience is people will ask why so many people are initiating in Istogoza, which is initiating in Umguni, Nemdawi, where you'll find on a cultural level, now moving away from a linguistic level, someone will say that, but I am Bedi, which is Sutu lineage, and so are my ancestors as far as I've known. So why is it that I have to Twasa, Isunguni, and Umzawe? Which speaks to also a cultural gatekeeping, which the cultural gatekeeping is a child of the linguistic gatekeeping, which tries to assume that if somebody does not come from that culture, from that language, that they are then disconnected from being given gifts from that language. It assumes that within our minds as people, or on our knowledge that we have, that we are saying we understand all of our ancestors and all of our origin stories. But living in a world that is patriarchal and heteronormative, there's been so much erasure. So many people that come and consult with me from South Africa, when I ask them what was your great-grandmother's surname, they don't know even their grandmother's surname. And when you then go back even further lineages, they don't. All of those women's surname and the erasure of the feminine in our historical orifices, because history, even in the way we're taught, focuses on the male perspective. Its gaze is a male gaze. There's so much erasure of the feminine, the birthers who connect us to so much. We inherit more in our DNA from our mothers than from our fathers. Yet in our genealogical family trees, we focus so much on the father, where we will then be in a South African cultural context, we'll say, I won't initiate Isunguni because I am Sutu. Where on a linguistic level, I'll be like, I will not go and initiate into maybe Ifa because I am Swati speaking. There's no one in my family who's ever spoken Yoruba. But yet I don't know that in all of these women that have been erased, in my native mind, in my native tongue, that which is actually within me, that I actually could be closer related to my Yoruba ancestors than I am to my South African ancestors. And this is a conversation that for me is so important, because I see Ubungoma and the root of Togoza and Dao, or the Nguni and Dao, growing so much, where there are even people who will say that, no, there is some ritual magic that is there that makes you then have all of these many twasas, have twasas that come from all of these different places. But if that was the case, then everybody would be doing that, because ritual magic is accessible to everyone. It's not exclusive to anyone. But what I know is that there is a true emergence of people being called specifically to ubungoma, the rite of passage where we initiate through ingoma, which is song, ingoma, which is also the drum, ingoma, which is also me, because I am ungoma. So the song resides within me. The song resides in the drum. The song resides in the dance. The song resides in the songs. The song is everything imbued within me, because we heal from understanding that sound has a healing quality, that sound has the ability to actually, change our mood if we just start with that gate. I'm sure so many of us have just had a bad day, and there's a song that if I sing the song, the song lifts our spirit or lifts my spirit. That is an internal native mind recognizing, even now in the Western modern thinking system, that, hey, sound is actually healing. Yet we forget the power of it, and now Ubungoma is emerging to collectively remind us all globally of the healing power of sound and song, and how it calls us together, calls us to self, calls us to family, calls us to witness, and calls us to community. Nthokozani Mokoko. I'm sure everybody can hear from you.
Oh my gosh, you just broke it all the way down.
There is no breaking.
Oh, there's no.
I'm trying to read the comments, but it seems everybody is also just sitting and still just at reference. I feel like you guys are trying to turn me into Beyonce, and I always say there is no Beyonce emadlotini. So those in the live, those in the space, maybe let me ask the baby cocos, is there anyone who'd like to share anything?
And we have a question.
Toza.
It's coming on my end.
Or maybe my comments are not loading because it's been stuck at Nandi Pamasimula joined.
Oh, yeah. So let me actually just double check that there's nothing else before that.
Here's the question.
Go ahead.
I felt a deep connection to the songs of many indigenous groups, cultures across the world. What is your recommendation to know what to follow?
Toza, that's such a powerful question. Maybe I'll let you take that one.
I mean, based on my experience and what I've witnessed, it's like we are called to many more than one path and one thing or one region, because we have many ancestral stories connected to many places. And I think it's about, and to me, this, I'm always using this metaphor about the scavenger hunt. Like, what is this scavenger hunt that we are on in this life? And it seems like we make different stops along the way. Yes. And when you look at the path of a map, like it's forming this wavy line, which also represents a lineage, right? Of many different types of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of the things that happens is that, like, there's a lot of things that happen along this path. It's like there's some people that go 1 or 2 steps in and they think that that's all that it is. Yes. But then they feel like it's not enough because there's a map, right, that we've already been called to follow. Mm-hmm. And if you're willing to go to each step or each gate across this line, and surrender yourself or humble yourself or receive the gift of that place, and not be distracted, from what may seem scary along this path. Because then you come to each ancestor or each culture, or each tradition or indigenous knowledge with respect. You come and give, you receive and give in that place, and then you move on.
And it's beautiful because I always say that I stand for Bungoma. And if often what I've experienced is that those who are called to many paths end up either initiating from the onset in Bungoma, or finally finding their rooting in Bungoma. Because as I spoke now around our genealogy and the erasure of the feminine and the understanding of looking beyond our given cultural lines of saying, I am Xhosa or I am Irish, I am what. All of us, if we go from, this is anthropological fact, so this is on science, you can Google this. All of us come from a woman in Africa. So each and every one of us has every single genome code within them. If we all come from a woman in Africa, that is our origin. They speak of it as the Eve gene, right? Which has birthed even all the different races. So now we have all evolved. Those in the north had to evolve, to the what. There's evolution to it. Now you find yourself awakening. All of these ancestors maybe have called you to be someone who is to build and weave together a community. So you'll be called by all of the practices or the roots of initiation, from all the way in Eastern mysticism to Buddhism, maybe from pagan ways, you'll be called maybe to Native American ways, you'll be called maybe to ayahuasca and working with cacao, you'll be called to Ifa, you'll be called to Bungoma, you'll be called to all of these different things, and it may create a confusion for you. But what I found powerful, particularly about Bungoma, is that because what we work with is on an ancestral level, is that ancestor who wants to gift to you comes through and then communicates through all the various channels you're opened up to as to what is their medicine. So you could twasa and have an ancestor who practice Ayurvedic things, and as a way to connect to them in your initiation, you would have meditative practice in what you're doing in order to move closer to that ancestor. At the same time, you have an ancestor who was a pagan witch and she practiced moon magic. You will then bring in the ritual magic of working with the moon, working with the goddess Hecate, which in Nguni Ngoma law is understood as Nomoi. It's encoded within there. You could then also have ancestors that come from maybe your Amazonian descent that work with Aya and that journeying medicine. And that is also found in Bungoma, because journeying medicine and that take you into altered states is also encoded with there. It's in the Basotho way, the same way that your South Americans revere the forests, revere the mountains. It's the same way as in Bungoma. Those that initiate in Sotho are specifically nature therapists and nature custodians and natural mystics. So that expression is all there. So, and because it's governed by, we want your ancestors to come forth and to reveal all of those, orifices or archives which have been lost, so that you can be able to tap all of the wisdom and all of the knowledge and knowing that you can birth forth as your gift. It is one that is exclusively inclusive. It is intentionally inclusive. The intersecting of all of these interests are celebrated as being what actually the native mind requires for all of us to return to the mother mind, to the mother body, to the Eve gene, to the original black woman who has birthed all of us. That is the way I view it. And if that is available to the person asking the question, maybe exploring that, sitting with that, and seeing what maybe going for a divination, if they've never been with a Sangoma, will then offer to them, so that they can explore the possibilities of all that I've just said. So, do you have any other comments or voices? Mine is really stuck. It must always be me.
Sending all the
live may or may not be saved. I'm still considering if I'm going to save it because we are YouTubers, guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels so at least we can get those 2 cents nyana from YouTube to support us, then offering spaces like this where we impart. Please also share our content when we post. Stand for this knowledge, and maybe one day when it's available you will also send them gogo and money. Kanisa, man, you know the dosies love that. But we'll sit with the live thing. It'll definitely go up on Insta, but the permanence of it I can't confirm or deny. Definitely.
Song carries a significance in every life stage. We sing when a child is born, when they come of age, when they marry, and when there's a celebration. Even in death, there is a song.
This is the native mind, that every ritual towards every ritual or every stage of life in the indigenous must come with a sound or with a song, because what that song ultimately, of every stage or every important marker of your life is accompanied by song, is the teaching of communicating, of expressing. It means returning back to song and using song as a tool of communication. Also, in a society where we often feel trapped inside our own minds, inside our own experiences, inside our own feelings, the practice of expressing through song and through call and response, what it does is it cultivates a natural opening into expressing, a natural flow into being able to name and negotiate that within which you experience and sensate in your inner world that is often trapped and locked there. I'm trying to now read the comments. I'm so on the side. Okay.
Because about the other question.
Could I maybe read this comment? Oh no, it's the one I just read. Ovyakata says, Toza Koko, thank you for this topic. I have recently had a Lozi song in my head. I googled it as I don't know all the lyrics. As soon as I sang it, Ngakita, I could feel I was not alone. You've just opened another important gate. Is that song allows for us to remember. It allows for us to come back to the all-knowing self. Because as we lose ourselves in the song, we step outside of control, the control we have over our bodies, and spirit can then flow. And in this share, it was immediately the song inspired Gita, a remembering of not even how do I know to Gita, an immediate acting into Gita. Song is a way of accessing the libraries that are in our DNA. Because at some point, Vuyo, your ancestors would have probably sang that song. Or one of your ancestors may have attended a ceremony where that song was sung, where that dance was and working with collective conscious, because energy never dies, is that song then becomes a conduit to access that memory, and you opening and submitting to the feeling of the song allows for you to elevate to higher states of knowing. Tawazani. I think what I'll do is I'll leave and I'll come back.
It says, I always have funeral songs stuck in my head to sing.
What songs?
Funeral songs on the Magu Gogo. What is the meaning of? Ooh, this is don't know these words. And the next comment is, and church hymns.
Oh, the YouTube video is frozen.
Awesome. Which, mine?
I don't know. Togoza Kokwane Pasisa, I'm moving on the YouTube. Is it still frozen? Please accept me back in. Sorry guys. Your technical difficulties. Back to the question. So if I understood the question correctly, it was I always have funeral songs in my head. What could that mean? Because what sense to it? Because to me, the sense I'm getting with, death being a transitory state, because in the indigenous or the native mind, we don't attach a permanence to death. We understand that it's the body being released back into the earth, because things must return from whence they come, right? That is, it's the law of the world, gravity. We are of the earth, so we must return to the earth. You throw something up, it must come down to the earth. But the soul carries on to live, right? And that soul then also has rituals in the indigenous or ngesintu or even in ubungoma that we do to help the soul firstly mourn its passing and its separation from the physical body, when we also do rituals of mourning. Secondly, we then go through rituals of transitioning, which help the soul to then, once we have mourned and the soul has mourned, to be able to transition, right? And then we have rituals of ascension, ukukhuphula idloti, which is then allowing for the spirit to ascend beyond its material sort of attachments and to then start to become an enlightened or a guardian or an angelic spirit. Then we then do the final stage, which is ukubuyisa, the repatriating then not of the body, but of the spirit back into the bloodline within which it's been sent to govern. Then when we do ukubuyisa, that's when the lozi can pass messages and speak and do all of those things freely, because we have done all of these rituals, of death. So often what I would say in this context is, if you're always sensing into death or whatever, there could be an invitation to look into, have anyone in terms of your parents, your grandparents, uncles, aunts, that are the ones that are central to ritual in your family passed on, and were any of those processes that I've just described in any way that it may look like done to honor that, or if it's not around death and rituals which need to be done as a symbolic marker or an omen. Death also represents, the dying of self to be reborn into newness. It represents also, it could be representative or symptomatic of a calling that needs to be acknowledged but is being resisted.
Dark night of the souls. Trying to invite you back in, but you're not coming up.
It says I'm in.
So you have
It
to
says you're
log.
not going out, somebody said you're not going to.
Okay, Togoza.
There are several comments and
Okay.
other things.
On YouTube.
On live.
Okay, let me check the YouTube.
Yeah, no, are you looking, checking here?
Oh, there isn't any live chat up here.
Can you see the comments or?
On YouTube?
No, on.
Yes, I can. But Olele says, when I'm at Mgidi, Wemandawe, and I get so mad, and Inga say, DT, please guys, don't do that. Maybe Nova Gunjalo, because vele bengathi khona into eyenziwayo kimi Kamaku. Thokoza, maybe Coco, you could share a bit more. Red July West says, oh yes, I have a question, Ketla. What does it mean when you dream of a gorilla speaking something, shouting, asking Zipi insimbi zami? Thokozani bo Coco, you know, subjectality or sticking to the subject matter is so important. Today we're exploring song, we're exploring native tongues, and even questions are encouraged, but questions that have to deal with sort of what we're doing. Because this is a dream question, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with going back to a native thought system, understanding how the native mind and how things are communicated is like I'm at a sort of an edge around saying that could we please not turn this into a dream interpretation session, because that's one of the favorite things that often happens in lives is that once you take one dream, then everybody will want to ask around dreams, and then we lose what it is that we're trying to share and impart, what our ancestors have asked us to come and take our time and invest our time as the whole temple, as in Panze Yonge, to be able to share this, that perhaps maybe we have also been seeing the importance of that message in this time. Thokozani. I think with that, let us sing another song, just to remind us all.
Tina.
Anxiety is doing the most to me. I really want to know. Okay, let's sing a song. Let's sing a Ndao song.
Oh, Maseko.
Going on their periods if you're a woman, or still sexually inclined and driven if you're a man. Stop it. Stop lying to people. You're not a Sunusi. Because a Sunusi is like a monk, somebody who has lented everything of the world to fully focus on governing the gates of spirituality, governing the communities of spiritual people, governing the families of spiritual people, and governing then the people of spirituality. And that needs for you to have all experiences, to know what it's like to be a child, to know what it's like to be a teenager, to know what it's like to be an adult, to be a mother, to be a grandchild, to know what it's like to lose, to go through death, all of the phases of living. Only then, that is the initiation into a Sunusi, is age, if there had to be one. So to get back to go.
Asata fuma la kwesio aye, amama la kwesio aye, amama la kwesio aye, asata fuma la kwesio aye, amama la kwesio.